Okay, so I've got two questions that I had a look at. I don't know if does anyone have a particular practice question that they have looked at and gone, Jesus, no, I will not be doing that. Does anyone have one of those? Anyone got a hell no, I won't go? No? These were the two that I decided, well, this is one I decided to have a go at. This bad boy. How does Hitchcock encourage the viewer to sympathise with Jeff despite his flaws? I thought that might be an interesting one to kind of play with because there is quite a lot of bits to the question, which often is something that intimidates a lot of kids, that they go, oh, there's just like a lot of bits to it. I have to talk about his flaws, I have to talk about sympathise and encourage the viewer, and there's how there, and there's just a lot in there. So people freak out about that. So I thought maybe we could do that question. The other one that I thought might be an interesting one was this one, because kids always freak out about doing any question with a quote in it. Why, I'm not sure, but they do. So I thought maybe that would be a good one. Few of the characters in this text behave in an ethical way. I felt like there was some interesting stuff in that, but a lot of kids wouldn't pick that question because they feel a bit intimidated by it. Or we could do something that is very cinematic based if you are feeling not quite comfortable yet embedding cinematic stuff in, and we could do a question like this: how does sound and camera use contribute to societal messages in Rear Window? So there were the three. If you're interested in doing number one, which is the sympathise despite the flaws, raise your hand. We are a pretend democracy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, that's quite overwhelming, but I am bad at numbers. So if you want to do number 2, which is the frightening ghouls behave in an ethical way. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4. Okay. Well, that looks like it rules out the last one, which is the camera angles and sound. Did anyone want to do that? Oh, 1, 2. You're not alone. You're not alone. Okay. All right. So it looks like today, anyway, maybe next week we'll do something to do with like cinematography and stuff. This week, we'll try and get through these two. We'll do the Jeff sympathise, and we'll have a go at the frightening ghouls. Okay. We should be able to get through 2. So, if you are writing along, feel free to copy that down. I'm going to put it on a PowerPoint. So I will send you this PowerPoint. So you'll have access to this in terms of the notes. But obviously, you know, like they're notes, so they'll be a bit scrabbly in terms of like I may not explain fully, but it'll make sense to you because you've seen it. Does that make sense? Yeah, no worries, babe. I like your hair, by the way. Did you get it done? It's like very... New glasses, definite. Oh. No, it's looking like really like shaped. I like it. Anyway, can you tell that we all spend a lot of time together? That we notice even like small amounts of change. That we're like, have you brushed your teeth differently today? Like... You went the up, down, not the round, didn't you? I see it. That's what happens. It is. It really is. It really is. Okay, so here is our question. Now, the first thing we do when we get a question is to panic, and then we swallow that panic and we push it deep down inside ourselves into the deep recesses and repress that fear for later. But then we look at the keywords. And we go, right, what is popping out? What is important? So tell me, where do you see the important bits in this question? How? Good. How is important because it is encouraging us to look at text construction. When they say how is usually about text construction. It means how do they put it together? Okay. So when he says, how does he do that? He doesn't want you to prove that he does that. He wants you to prove, well, he, I'm saying he, the examiner, she, they, let's use gender neutral. They are encouraging you to, look at the mechanics of something, of the text. So the mechanics of the text is this question. So how does Hitchcock encourage the viewer to sympathise with Jeff despite his flaws? What else is important in that question? Yes? Encourage, good. So we are being, I'll get it one day. Oh, don't you hate it when that happens? Where you're like, why are you no highlight? I asked you nice. Okay, encourage, good. What else is important? Sympathise. And I think that one is an interesting one because I don't think you would necessarily just have to agree with it. I think you could also challenge it and go, do we sympathise with Jeff? Do we not? To what extent do we sympathise? Are there aspects that we sympathise and others that we're like, mate, you are getting way more of a bargain than you personally deserve? Like, we could. Yeah, look, it's very hard for me to have sympathy for Jeff because he's human garbage. So, the more you watch it, the more you hate him. Yeah. Oh, that's an ick. Yeah, that's an ick. Any big ick energy. Did you like that? And lastly, there is one other phrase I think that is important there. Despite his flaws. So it is acknowledging that Jeff is not just a great dude. Wow. How bold of you to say that he isn't just a great dude. So despite his flaws. Okay, so we've got some interesting stuff about it. So we've got how I need to talk about mechanics, which would be, in this case, it would be cinematic techniques. It could also be plot points, like actual choosing to have certain things happen to characters. It could be like character construction. Dialogue choice, yes, but just pure dialogue, no, because that's not a construction element. But language choices. Definitely. So you could kind of say he chooses to say these certain things or place that particular comment there because. So it's all about mechanics, about text construction. Okay, so I'm just going to write in capitals, text construction. And then the other thing we need to talk about is sympathise. Do we always? Do we always sympathise? There are certainly aspects where we don't sympathise. Debatable. And then despite his flaws. So obviously we also need to look into the things that are wrong about him. I'll just pop this down while it's in my head. Rhetorical question. Yep.
Could we also extend sympathise to take pity on?
Yeah, so we could say, so we could go pity, or we could say even understand, that we understand him. Maybe we don't sympathise with him, but maybe we understand. And I think that's much more likely, that we understand him rather than sympathise, that we're like, okay, yeah, he's a jerk, but there's reasons he's a jerk. You know, he's an understandable jerk. So they're all the things that you kind of want to look at in this question. So there is a lot in there for us to do. There's a lot of work to do. So where do you want to start? I guess is the question. And with an essay, can I just emphasize that you want to start with your strongest argument, your strongest idea. I think argument's probably the wrong word for this question because you're not like really going for a particular, like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's not going to have like a strong contention. It's more about like, here are the ideas that I'm going to discuss. So where do you see like something? And it would obviously be different depending on the kid. Like, I might kind of go, I feel really strong that I could talk about his flaws until the cows came home. I would feel very comfortable in that setting. Whereas someone else might kind of go, I feel really comfortable talking about mechanics. I'm very good at text construction stuff. I want to really kind of hone in on that. So I'm going to pick a idea that I can really go strong on that. Now, as a side note, what I would think about doing if I was you is I would look at this idea and not necessarily do it as a paragraph by itself. A paragraph on text construction is boring. It's dry. It's like reading a page of maths. It's like being exposed to maths at all. Yeah. So what you want to do instead when you get these how questions, rather than going, I have to talk about text construction as a paragraph, and like, because a mid to low range kid will go, okay, I'm going to find 3 ways that we sympathize with Jeff, and I'm going to talk about each one through a different, like, you know, camera angles help us sympathize with Jeff. Music helps us sympathize with Jeff. Acting helps us sympathize with Jeff. A mid to low range kid will do it that way because they're kind of like, look, I'm ticking the boxes that it's like how, I know how is about text construction, and sympathize, I'm answering the question, so I'm doing it. And ultimately, they are doing it, but are they doing it? You know, it's not great. So what I would say is when you get these how questions, don't feel like you have to just talk about it, but use those text construction elements to prove your point instead. So all of our evidence in our ideas are going to be text construction. They're going to be cinematics and plot points and character constructions and language choices. They're not going to be just talking about a scene and getting quotes. Okay? Which is another reason I picked this question. So, tell me, did you though? Because I gave you 3 options. I know you like to feel like you're in control. It's this thing that teachers do, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah.
That's it. Everyone changed their answer.
Yeah, this false sense that people need, teenagers need a false sense of autonomy, that we pretend that you're in control, but really we are the puppet masters. Like Jeff. Or Lisa, depending on your viewpoint. Right, so, goodness. It's just full circle. Full circle, baby. All right, so, feel free, Claudia, to feel like you're in control if you wish. You do you, boo. Okay, so tell me, what are 3 things that we could say? Yes.
Well, you could talk about how throughout the film, Jeff is it demasculinized? Is that the word?
Emasculated.
That's okay. That's all right. Yeah.
All right.
Sure.
Keep
going. Talk me through it.
And so, we sympathize with him because
Because we feel sorry for him because he's a bit.
Yeah. And it's also enhanced through Lisa and her independence and her like how she took over and sort of became like his provider because he was unable to because of his injury. And then for mechanics, I don't know if you could talk about like camera angles, like you talk about camera angles and stuff like that.
Yes. Because he is forced into a situation of emasculation. Cool. We sympathise with Jeff because he's forced into a situation of emasculation. You happy with that? You know, i.e. rich GF. Yeah. I know, it's so hard having a rich girlfriend that buys you like nice lobster dinners.
Contextually, like when you think about a 1950s man, it's sort of taking away his pride.
How about you just suck it up and eat the lobster? Actually, last year, one of my students... Mate, submit and eat your lobster. Like, mate. And then don't be like, it's perfect. Like always. Like, give me a break. The cast obviously is preventing certain masculine activities.
Well, what did you say?
He's all wrinkly like a soft tart.
Yeah.
What did you say phrase was in the life?
Oh, he's sexually inconvenienced.
That's right.
I know. I can't believe I told. Yeah, there's a story. There's a story behind it. And it could only happen to Panaceris, isn't it? Like, could happen to nobody else. So funny. So funny.
Wait, what happened?
You'll know. I'm not going to tell the whole thing on tape. So his rich girlfriend, he's got a cast. Is there anything else that kind of makes him emasculated? He's not as successful, yeah. Not as successful. Not as her though. She's proper successful.
He's not just fighting. Oh yeah, not just her, but he's still pleased with his career.
Yeah. Rich girlfriend. She's got the cast. Oh yeah, he's also confined.
Both physically and
Yes. Physical reliance. On.
like social reliance.
Yeah, true. And Lisa. Okay. We sympathise with Jeff because he is forced into a situation of emasculation. Oh, me. Yes, I can, and I will be. Okay. And this is actually a good argument because one of the things that the examiners really froth over is this. It's true. They love you talking about the context a little bit and kind of going, considering this 1950s world, this would be, this would be, really asking a lot of Jeff to kind of swallow his pride. That a man in this time, this is really, a crisis of masculinity for a man of this time. Yeah? Considering the context, the audience would have seen this as a crisis of his sense of self. That, people would have been watching this and going, yes, it's no good. This poor man, he has to deal with the fact that his girlfriend is buying him lobster dinners. That must be so hard for him. Yes?
Which also sort of which also reflects the masculinity crisis that spread throughout the US after the war, because a lot of men came home and took over the city and craved the thrill of the war.
Of post-war men coming home to lack of jobs and lack of excitement. What's so hard for them?
I swear to God.
Anyway. Okay, so yeah, so you could definitely throw that in when you're doing your explanations, kind of throw these things in, saying, considering the context and contextually the audience of the time would have seen this as a much bigger deal than, say, we see it, where it's like just eat your lobster and shut up. They would have been like, yes, this is a crisis of his sense of self. And it would then mirror a lot of the crises that a lot of men in this context would have been going through, where their senses of selves were also challenged because they had come back from war or just trying to enter the workplace and having to compete with women for those jobs and those opportunities. Yes.
Could you talk about the camera angles between Jeff and Lisa and how like the camera looks up to Lisa and looks down on Jeff and that like sort of emasculates him?
Good. So now we're talking specifically about evidence that we're going to use. Camera angles with Jeff and Lisa, particularly in that post-dinner scene where they're having that argument. In the post-dinner argument. Because there's a lot of shifting of, like, they start off on the same level and then she kind of takes it up and then she's kind of sitting down again. You know, there is this play of who's in charge, who's, you know, and he ultimately ends up being kind of emasculated that she stands up and she leaves, and it's not like he can chase her, you know, because there's steps.
But she comes back the next day.
Yeah. Not until tomorrow night. Babe. Oh. Simping hard, a little bit. Oh, it hurts. Okay, so we could use camera angles to prove that. What else? Because remember, we're only using the constructs. We're only using TextCon. Yes?
Sorry, it's not about that. It's about Lisa.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I think the fact that Lisa, they also gives Lisa this successful like work, and because she looks so much younger in the film than Jeff is. She was, I don't know if this is true or if I make something dream, but wasn't she villainized by audiences?
I don't know.
Of her power.
Probably. At the time, she would have
She
been.
probably would have been.
And being dominant is like the most important thing. Like they have to be like.
All right.
I'm with it.
I'm sorry.
He's a pig. He's a pig.
And so, like, audiences also make sympathize with Jeff because he's had to put up with Lisa.
Yeah.
Quotation marks.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, like, this paragraph, we could really hone in on that and kind of say that audiences at the time would have really had sympathy for Jeff in this situation because he's forced to be so emasculated. And obviously, this is a really good paragraph because the emasculation would be the flaw. You know, this is our flaw. I'm going to just write that. That he's emasculated, but we sympathise because he's kind of forced into this situation. He didn't choose to have a broken leg. He did choose to stand in front of a moving car, but, you know, let's not get technical. He didn't choose to, you know, be confined in this space. He didn't choose to have, you know, a girlfriend that's got this career that's super successful. He doesn't even want her. She just keeps stinking around because, you know, she's pathetic. And, you know, so, yeah, so he's kind of forced into this situation of emasculation. Yep.
Could you talk about the fact, maybe not necessarily this paragraph, but like everyone around is practically wanting him to get married, and that's sort of like
Trying to restrain him.
Yeah, so like he's like, yeah, I want to be free spirited and go out and travel, and they're all like, no.
No, yeah.
1950s ideal, you need to stay at home.
Yeah, we could put that in this paragraph because it could go in with this emasculation thing that, you know, he's being confined. How could we feed in this confinement here? How could we do that in text construction? I'll give you a hint. It's stuck onto him. Yeah, we could talk about the cast. And that the emasculation is further implied through the cast, meaning that he cannot do what he wants, which is to have a sense of freedom. Yeah? Freedom.
I agree with what Danny said, but I actually disagree that that marriage, Jeff's rejection of marriage counts to his emasculation, because I think it was much more like dehumanizing for a woman and shameful for a woman to not marry than a man in the 50s. So I would probably use the rejection of marriage in a separate paragraph and say that Jeff's rejection of marriage was a flaw because, well, I would say like this, but it's a flaw because in 1950s there were ideals of getting married that weren't necessarily like emasculating. But he had pressure from like himself, Lisa, Stella to get married or not get married, and that audiences in this age would sympathise with that because now we know that marriage is popular but not conventional.
Yeah, so you don't have to do it.
Jeff was countercultural.
He is countercultural in the fact that he doesn't want to be married. Yeah. Although for men, it wasn't super countercultural to not want to be married because a bachelor lifestyle was okay. And there is kind of, particularly in the 50s, there is this vibe that men are kind of dragged into marriage, whereas women are like the ones doing the dragging. So I'd say his behavior in terms of not wanting to be married is quite culturally kind of on par because like, yeah, all men don't want to be married, but they actually need to be married because, you know, everybody needs somebody, especially women, because like you'll get old and then what? You'll have the bottom apartment. That's what. Be slapping on makeup and being sexually harassed by men. That will be your life. That'll be your life. And no one will feel sympathy for you when you try and swallow a whole bunch of red pills. That's Hitchcock's messages. Hitchcock's messages. Jess.
When you say that his unwillingness to get married is through his emasculation, because at the end of the day, he's getting what he wants.
He does get what he wants. He doesn't have to get married. Yeah, she doesn't have to get married. Yeah, I would say so, but we're getting away from this question. Could be. Yeah, we could go further.
These are his flaws, but in your second paragraph, I mean, all of this stuff, we feel sorry for him, but then in your third paragraph, ultimately, there's not much to feel sorry for.
We don't have to feel sorry for him because he's like the cat who got the cream. Yeah. Yeah. He gets exactly what he wants. Yeah. He gets Lisa, but he gets her being exciting and he doesn't have to get married. Yeah. Yeah. And that's only because he was a dirty perv and watched Torso.
Yeah, but without him, the role of himself.
Like, that was his punishment. It's like a slap on the wrist. Alright.
Okay, so voyeuristic virgins, okay, they would never have found wrong.
So, how about para 1? Para 1 is about emasculation and the fact that we sympathise with Jeff because he's forced into a position of emasculation. Then para 2, let's pick another flaw. I wrote a list. I wrote voyeur. Yeah, commitment phobe. He's also really rude to Lisa.
We're forced to like
Yeah, we love Lisa. Yeah. Is shit. Yeah, but then we understand it because he's threatened by her, which kind of feeds into this. We could.
Yeah, if you that.
Yeah. So why? Okay. So. Okay.
You talk about voyeurism. You say that although it's a flaw, and we like audiences reject the notion of his voyeuristic urges. By the end of the film, we actually we actually praise him for doing it because
Because
he
he
solves a murder.
doesn't solve a murder. He discovers there was a murder. Yep.
We
Janae?
ourselves identify with those urges within ourselves.
Okay, let's see what Janae says.
He like also stated like from his like career pathway, like he's technically a lawyer in that, and that's the reason he
Yeah.
needs to be a lawyer in the first place.
Yeah.
So it's more sympathetic because he's confined to any lack of work that leads to his voyeurism.
Okay, so we're going to do a voyeurism.
Yeah.
We're going to lock in a voyeurism. Okay, so this is his flaw. Jeff is flawed due to his relentless voyeurism.
Get a TV, bro. Get a TV.
He's too poor for a TV. Yeah, get Lisa to buy him a TV. Yeah. Some of which is blatantly gratuitous. No, I spelled that wrong. There we go.
That was so stupid. You could totally
Okay.
see it
So, the flaw that we're going to talk about now is his relentless voyeurism, some of which is blatantly gratuitous, like he's blatantly like just having a dirty perv, like Torso and the girls that are on the roof, the sunbathing girls, that's blatantly gratuitous. And even watching Miss Lonely Heart, it's gratuitous, but not in the way that it's sexually gratuitous. It's gratuitous in that he's just kind of vicariously living through her and laughing at her. He mocks her.
Yeah, but she's
Yeah, he mocks her because he's a jerk. And when she slumps and cries, he smirks. He thinks it's funny. You know, after she kind of puts the glass down and slumps and cries, he's kind of like, funny lady crying. That's funny. It's gratuitous. Dirty perv. Direct quote. Gratuitous means like for your own gratification and no one else's. That you're getting something out of it. Yeah. It means like, yeah, you're getting something out of it that is not for others. Yeah. Yeah. It's selfishly getting something out of it. Yeah. Yeah. So let's go Miss Torso. Sunbathing. Yes.
You could talk about the murder and how it's difficult, like that he gets into it in the first place because he needs entertainment. He's so bored.
Yeah. Sunbathing girls and there was someone else. Oh, Lonely Heart. Miss Lonely Heart. Ms. Lonely Heart, because she's a spinster.
Oh,
But what about the newlyweds though too?
Oh yeah, and
Yeah.
the newlyweds. I forgot about that. Where he's like,
Yeah.
what is it? That they're like, there's something much more sinister going on behind there, and he's like, no comment. Newlyweds. Window shopper. All right. So, what makes it? Do we sympathise with him being a voyeur? Let's debate that word in this paragraph. Good. It is understandable. Hang on, I did come up with a word, that I was like, sympathise is too strong. Relate? Yes. We understand it, yeah. We don't sympathise though.
Alright, miss, we get it.
Yes, good. We don't sympathise. We do understand.
Sympathize with his reasoning.
Yeah, we do understand. We do understand though. Yeah. All right. And I think when you're writing that topic sentence, that's a cool thing to throw in, to kind of go, although it is too strong a word to say that we sympathise with Jeff and his relentless voyeurism, we do, however, understand the root of it. Yeah? Okay. We're doing good, guys. Yeah. No, because we're having an interesting discussion and we've
I'm
got
having
some
a
really
laugh.
cool thoughts.
I'm absolutely having a laugh.
Good.
And past making this night, that was my life.
Delight. Pasta bake. Pasta bake. She's having pasta bake for dinner. Delish. Delish. I know. Why don't I live with my mum? I want pasta bake. All right. Because she was offering to drive me pasta bake. Wouldn't you? Free pasta bake.
Okay, here's like a funny story. You see Mr. Thorwald on the street, he's like, hey, like I've got some cheesecake back in my house, do it at her.
I'm coming. Worth the risk. Worth the risk. I can take him. He's old. I can take him. As if I'm gonna fall out the window like Jeff. All right, we've lost it. We've lost it. We need to come back in. We need to come back in. We need to recenter. We need to recenter. Okay. Okay. So we are going to debate that. We are going to debate that no, we do not sympathise. We do understand though. So now what we're going to need, we've got some evidence that we are going to talk about in terms of his relentless voyeurism, that he is relentless in Miss Torso and Some Baby Girls and Miss Lonely Heart and Newlyweds. But how is it that we understand that he needs to get his voyeur on? Charlotta. Okay. Wonderful.
Is voyeur doing worse?
He needs to voyeur.
Yeah.
Yeah. Due to his job, he needs to voyeur.
When I first thought voyeurism, I thought of voyage, through your window.
Oh my god.
All right, so there's one reason. We understand because he needs to. That's his job. It's hot. It's hot. So I need to perv on people because it's hot. Yeah.
Craving that thrill, and so he tries to live by.
Let's put hands up. Claudia, stop yelling at me.
So
Right.
That's what we do this later.
I know. Right, yes, my darling.
Because all other characters were too. So it's
Good.
a natural thing. At least think about it.
Everyone else does it too.
So it'd be
Do
like-
it. Does
it'd
it.
be unfair, like, you know, it's like-
Good.
No, but, yeah, but Lisa, so Stella, remember when she said, yeah, we become a race of people
Right,
outside?
Stella.
That could be to the context of that.
Saying
On the home front philosophy.
we become a race of being while also directing her gaze out the window. All right. Everyone relax. So, although Cassandra always says that she's cold, but then she also always sits under the vent. So, like, I mean,
I'm cold.
Actually, I'm not, and I'm close though.
okay, we got to stay focused. So, everybody else does it. We can use that lovely bit where Stella says we've become a race of peeping toms, criticizing what Jeff is doing, and yet she's doing it while saying that. And we're like, credibility down the gurgler. So that would be okay because, again, that's text construction because what I'm really focusing on is the gaze outside the window. Okay? The male gaze, male gaze, male gaze. But not,
Male gay?
yeah, what, male gaze? Homosexuals? Yeah. What?
She doesn't truly start gazing out the window until later on, though.
Yeah, when she says, oh, we've become a race of peeping toms, she's looking out the window while she says it.
Yeah, but if she's doing it with the same intent as Jeff.
But she's still doing it. Everybody does it.
Yeah, but then looking out the window and then really.
Oh, look, it's different. He gets the long focus lens out. He admits that. He even says that. He goes, is it ethical? And it's like, no, man. If you have to ask.
It wasn't ethical 3 steps.
Yeah. Mate, it's been 3 days you've not bathed. You need to just take it back. There's not a lot of bathing happening. But he's not moving long. Regardless. Hang on. Shh. I know. She's confusing.
Yeah.
Let us hear from our lovely gentleman.
Could I go like back to the 1950s?
Yes, yeah, definitely. So we also understand because of the climate. Also understand due to the political climate. Yeah, definitely. Understand due to the political climate that watching people report suspicious behavior was how was the snort though? Was necessary in order to protect from the communist threat. Not the communists. Oh my god, so I've got a kid in my year 9 class who is obsessed with the USSR and he just like watches Russian parades on loop. Yeah.
My dad.
I'm not even lying. It's every time I walk past his computer, that's what he's doing. It's so weird. But I kind of love it.
I'll tell you a funny story once we finish.
Oh. Are they friends? Are they both?
Maybe the enemies.
We'll trade names later.
My name's Noah.
No, it's on the computer. I'm being recorded. Okay, so also understand due to the political climate that watching people for suspicious behaviour was necessary in order to protect from the communist threat.
Also tie in the fact that Forward doesn't look like a conventional
He doesn't. That is a good point.
He looks like he's not from around.
You said he looks Jewish. Yeah.
He's kind of got a bit of a Jewish look to him. Well, he's kind of got a bit of the hook nose and the, yeah. He's got like a European vibe.
Oh, you're sorry.
Yeah.
He's got a foreign.
Yeah.
I knew it. I told you.
Okay,
No one has
Right. And Thorwald can often be a Jewish name, but it could just kind of point towards, like, yeah, that he's not like Jim Smith. He's Lars Thorwald, which is kind of a bit of an unusual name.
I was like,
Yeah, he's like different. It's very white. Yeah. Right, hang on. So I need another reason why I understand that Jeff is a voyeur, or that justifies his voyeurism, and we're missing one massive one. So I'm hoping Jess has it. No pressure. Good. Only this wasn't the one, but that's okay. And you could talk about, so Miss Callanan was talking about like the building setup, so the setting that like, I mean, he can't help but look.
Yes, it's impossible.
Yeah.
Well, it's not illegal. But it was socially frowned upon.
it's not though.
Last one. There's another like glaringly obvious one.
Because he solved the crime.
I mean, I've got it, but let's do something else first.
Oh,
So with,
can't get no satisfaction.
okay, so with the communist threat, right? We're like, yeah, you know, solve that murder. That's what it is, murder. Solve that murder. You know, like do that thing. You know, get that, whatever. But doesn't the audience also sort of feel like doesn't fear Jeff, but what he's doing, because wasn't there that whole like fear of being watched?
Yes, but I think that McCarthy is quite okay. Yeah, I think he is encouraging people to watch just in case you've got the communists. Speaking of the communists, Sam Vermeulen. Sam Vermeulen and Jared. You know what I mean. Yeah. Oh, they always kind of have some interesting moments, although I will definitely bleep out my address. Oh, no, I need them to know about the pasta bag. Okay. Pardon? Okay. The murder.
It was solving a murder.
Well, he doesn't solve a murder. We have to be careful there. He actually discovers that a murder exists. Hitchcock is inverting that idea. And instead of like your typical crime fiction where it's like, oh, there's a body, who committed the crime, we go, oh, we know who committed the crime, but was there a crime? So, yes. So, here's confirmation that...
Oh, Jesus.
Yes. Yeah, chucks her in the East River. Yeah, but then puts her head in a hat box under the flowers.
That's very confusing to my vibe.
I think he buries like her limbs in the garden.
No, the head goes in the garden in a hat box.
And then takes the hat box out and puts it back next to it.
Okay, never mind.
And then Stella goes, I don't want any part of her.
And then she's like, no.
That's so 50s, that moment, isn't it?
What if I'm being in my
This is a no judgment zone.
Yes, there is. There is no judgment here. Ladies, gents, so I just kind of helped you out a little bit, gave you a bit of a leg up. So his confirmation that there was a murder you could use for the evidence as the dramatic irony moment where we see the lady in black and we go, that ain't Miss Thorwald. And because we know that from the very start, we know that his voyeurism is justified from very early on. That we're like, no, you should keep digging because ultimately we know something he doesn't know. We know about the lady in black. And so we know that there is motive the whole way along. He doesn't know that. So ultimately we approve of his flaw because we know that it is justified, that his gut feeling is justified. Sick. All right, let's do a third paragraph. We got 10 minutes. I know this one kind of took us longer than we anticipated, but that's okay because I feel like we're doing some good stuff.
Oh, I'm having a...
It's about quality, not quantity. You do you. I don't care what you do. But you'll need to take my key because otherwise you will not be able to let yourself back in. Shouldn't have done that. So. Yes, that one, the murder. Yeah, I just wanted the murder. That's all. I just wanted a murder. That's all. Get off my back, Jess. Well, I would have done a better job. That's all I'm gonna say. As if I'd put it in the flower garden. When there's a dog around. I mean, don't bury where dogs are. Right? Right.
You get rid of the head.
I know. All right, so.
Oh, just one question. At the end of the class, we're all going to take a selfie for A. All right, that's it.
Cute. Okay. I'm into it. So we need we either could have in this third paragraph, the paragraph 3 is your fun one. I always think it's a fun one where you can kind of take the question a little bit further and kind of go, ooh, maybe instead of saying how, I'm going to say why. I'm gonna trick it up a bit and go, you know, it's a bit like there's this show that I watch a lot because I'm really sad. It's called Escape to the Country. And
my daughter used to love that show.
I'm so sad.
Yeah.
And basically they show you, I should not admit that, but they show you 3 houses and the first 2 are what you asked for and the third one is a bit of a wild card, right? This is the 3rd paragraph, and a high-ranging kid will see that your 3rd paragraph is your moment to shine and take this to the next level, right? So paragraph 1, paragraph 2, they answer it. Paragraph 3 takes the question further. So let's talk about how we could take this bad boy further than just how does he, because, I mean, look, there'd be nothing wrong with going with a 3rd flaw, and let me be, he's got flaws, right? I'm not saying you couldn't fill in a 3rd flaw very easily, but instead of going a 3rd flaw, what could we do? What could we do? What could we say?
Contradict ourselves.
And say what?
That we don't.
That he's flawless?
No, I hate that. That we don't.
Got to keep that down.
What?
No judgment. There's no judgment.
Sorry, you sure?
No, I love Monique. Let's hear it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just steamrolling you. Monique said before that we sympathise with his situation, like we've got in those past 2, but we don't sympathise with him. We hate Jeff.
We do hate Jeff. And then we could really rail on Jeff and be like, he's rude, he's obnoxious, he's wearing the same pajamas he's worn the entire time. Great. Okay. So this paragraph I'm going to call We Hate Jeff.
Can I just quickly add? I had an idea. Can I show if it's good? We don't have to explain.
Yeah. No. We can give a couple of different alternatives to paragraph 3. So we could do a paragraph, We Hate Jeff. What could other be another idea? Is that what you've got, Claudia?
I was going to talk about his stubbornness and his commitment women, not as a flaw, but as I hate misogynist as much as the next person, but how if he wasn't stubborn to continue his voyeuristic urges and if he didn't ignore Stella and Lisa's like judgment, then
Justice wouldn't have been served.
Yeah.
Cool. But that would mean that when we did para 2, and we said the confirmation of the murder, I would probably snip that out if I was going to do your 3rd paragraph and then really bring it home there. So he's a jerk. I'm going to call this one. He is a jerk, but he does do some good though.
And very teenager.
Right? That's our para 3. Okay? Yep. So please see para 3 as and when you're doing your practice pieces, have a go at taking your 3rd paragraph to the next level. And even if you're not writing it, even just kind of like when you're planning, kind of going, okay, where is there, they're a bit like an Easter egg. You know, in movies and stuff, how they put those little Easter eggs? Yeah, look for the Easter eggs in the question and kind of go, oh, how could I play with that? How could I play with an aspect of the question? So, for instance, we're going to play with that idea of sympathise and go, wow, do we sympathise though? No, because he's a big fat jerk. We hate Jeff. Or playing with the idea that, you know, yeah, he is a jerk. We don't sympathise with him, but he does do some good though. Doesn't mean we sympathise with him, but he does do some good. He's a jerk that does good things. So find the Easter egg in the question that you can kind of play with, twist, have a go at, because those essays are the more interesting essays to read, and interesting essays do well. Nice. All right, so we hate Jeff. What are we going to say about hating Jeff? What are all the things? He's rude. Rude to Lisa. We love her.
This whole paragraph is a we hate Jeff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we hate Jeff. We don't sympathise with him. No sympathy for you.
It's misogyny.
Not even a crumb.
Not even a crumb.
Not even
no sympathy for you.
He gets his crusty bread.
Talk about how we were saying that he's the one of all Hitchcock's jokes.
Good.
Oh, yeah.
But
Oh my god, he actually
He is.
Good. And she hit
yeah, like, you know the bit at the end where he falls and Lisa is the knight in shining armor cradling his head and he's the damsel in distress falling out the window. That it inverts. Yeah, you've got a hormone deficiency because you know, like he's yeah, he is impotent. The damsel in distress. Pardon? Oh, he becomes the girl Friday. He becomes the girl Friday. Yeah. You know how Lisa says the girl Friday is the person that always kind of like, you know, he is like the sidekick.
Yeah.
He becomes the girl Friday to Lisa being the detective. Yeah. Yeah. He becomes Robin to Lisa's Batman.
Oh yeah.
He becomes the girl Friday. Obviously, the two broken legs at the end.
This is good. I mean,
Why else do we hate Jeff? Come on.
He's a misogynist and he only refers to women as body parts.
Good. Objectifies women.
Narrows them down.
Objectifies. Objectifies.
And he tells my favorite character in the episode.
Yeah.
Lisa.
Yep. Yes. Fix me a sandwich. Tries to like he tries to push women back into the box.
Put him back in place.
Yeah.
For the time.
He's a bully.
Yeah.
Bullies women. Yeah. Stella. I'm just gonna write Stella Sandwich. And he thinks he wins that argument.
Yeah.
It reminds me of a very, like, one of my favorite memes that says you should never play chess with a pigeon because even if you win, they'll still shit on the board and strut around like they look like they've won. Like,
Because they're another one.
that's Jeff. Like, he has that argument with Stella. She's totally right. It gets to the end, and he's like, oh, what did she pay you to say that?
He has to get the
Like,
last
he
word
thinks,
in.
yeah, he has to slide the last word in, and even though his is really lame, he's sitting there like, yeah, zinger got hurt. I'm like, that was not a zinger. It's not a zinger. Ugh. It bothers me. It bothers me a lot.
how dare he speak to her like that? That's my very favorite.
Good. Yeah. More concerned right than ethical concerns. Wonderful. All right. So, ladies, gentlemen, I know. What a killer. But Prince Albert, what a disappointment. But I mean, like, hella rich, so I guess there's that.
No idea.
He married Prince Albert, and he's like not that good looking, and he cheated on her for like the rest of her life.
Oh man, is this another Diana situation? Because she is very promiscuous. Diana is the queen of the people.
Yes, I know.
Alright.
I love Princess Diana.
Ladies, gentlemen. Jess, did you have a question?
Mine more was that, because you also say that like Jeff has more sympathy for other characters.
Good. Yeah. He lacks empathy.
He's a sociopath.
Alright. So this would be a massive essay. Obviously, all the points that we kind of put for each paragraph, you could not get to. So what you would do is obviously choose the creme de la creme. Sorry. You would obviously choose your creme de la creme and go, these are the bits I can work. And remember, what evidence do we use? Only what? Only cinematics, only the mechanic stuff. Only things like, you know, text construction-y, cinematography, sound, lighting, blah, blah, camels, all the camel stuff. You would only be allowed to use those so that you hit the how.
So can you use quotes though? And
Writing quotes, yeah.
You could use that, but you'd have to be very text construction-y about the way you pulled it apart.
I mean, what's not to do? Like,
So you couldn't just kind of go, oh, in the scene where this happens and she says this, it hurts his feelings and blah, blah, blah. You couldn't do that. You could say, Hitchcock employs this scene. He shows Lisa with a crestfallen face, and that face tells us that. Da, 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 da.
Miss, I've got a funny question. Sorry to tell you.
Can't wait. All right. See you later, guys. I'm going to edit this so you won't know my address. Have a lovely day.